Dzień dobry Państwu. Mamy
Good morning. This looks like a theater, absolutely stunning. I hope this will add a touch of drama to this session or encourage the speakers to open up and talk about technology bluntly, because the technology is there not to put us in place or to throw us back to the past, but rather to give new dynamics to the resources that we have at hand to use more productively. Welcome to this panel dedicated to technology during the Heritage Innovator Days. My name is Kacper Nosarzewski. I'm a partner at 4CF, and I have the pleasure of moderating this discussion with the following speakers. Małgorzata Jarosińska-Jedynak, Marshal of the Podkarpackie region. Welcome. Wiktoria Wnęk, Project Manager at ASECO. Piotr Nazarko, Dean of the Department of the Environment, Engineering and Architecture of the Rzeszów University of Technology. Michał Czerwiński, Architect at WXCA. And Iwo Krankowski, Director and Executive Producer of the Netflix hit series 1670. Welcome. As I said in the beginning, I'd like us to talk about the role of technology in projects focusing on cultural heritage. Clearly, large part of that heritage is tangible, and large part of tangible heritage is immovable properties, the biggest chunks that we can possibly visit, rather unlike museum collections that are kept away from the visitors, only small part thereof being available to the unlikely visitors to museums. But macro monuments, such as buildings or architectural setups, designs, is what regular people have direct contact with as they live in historic buildings, like it or not, and indirectly those historic buildings being vessels for historic identity or an underlying texture of our lives, emotional churches, which is where people go to get married, or other historic buildings where people go to get married. And it's all saturated with historic meaning, more or less. If you look at the registers of the National Heritage Institute, not every township has historic monuments, but many townships, towns and cities have multiple. So my point is that technology should help us not only protect historic heritage, which is a great challenge by itself, but also to appreciate them, to maintain the functions or endow them with new functions, to reinterpret them and make them a living part of our lives, to multiply their value, which historically speaking is the basic function of technology: productivity, multiplication of value, use of labor to produce added value. Using the electromagnetic spectrum, the power of nature, or the binary code to create value added. So on this panel, we will try to outline and expand the limits of technology and the role it plays in heritage. With this very diverse group of speakers coming from different disciplines of art and management, including the art of government, we can lean into this issue and take a multifaceted perspective. Let's make a round first and then try to summarize. Let me first ask the Marshal the following question, like an examination really. In your region, Podkarpackie, have you recently been running any projects combining technology and heritage? From your experience and knowledge, do you think that they have used or may use public funding or EU funding in order to use technology to support heritage? Thank you for this question and good morning, everyone. Let me take this question directly. Yes, we have been making good use of that and will continue to do so. We've been using EU funds and Polish government funds to implement projects and measures protecting and improving cultural heritage by maintaining historic buildings in proper condition, by digitizing our museum resources, which have been inaccessible to the vast part of the audience as they are kept in the black box to protect it from any interference, or museums that are not willingly visited in the nooks and corners by the audience. But we try to turn it into the virtual world to introduce the bigger audience to those resources. Now, my professional focus is on accessibility to people with disabilities in many historic monuments by using innovative technology and solutions. People in wheelchairs or blind people, people on wheelchairs can actually ascend the tower in Malbork, which is not in our region, to the very top of the tower using digital technology. The same goes for our monuments and historic buildings in the region. People with sight impairments can touch mock-ups to understand what those artifacts look like. We've been an EU member state for 20 years, and for 20 years EU funding has been transforming our cultural heritage and its environment. In the 2021-2027 financial perspective, we have new opportunities for cultural institutions, churches, local governments. So 450 million zlotys is available for good use in culture using state-of-the-art technology, because this is what people are expecting us to do. They want those innovative state-of-the-art technologies to introduce them to historic monuments without them ever leaving their homes. And this is what we are doing. We are exploring the digital world to introduce the historic buildings to them. Well, it's not perhaps best news that you can stay at your home and visit the Łańcut castle. You should rather go there and visit firsthand, but we still want this heritage to be closer to people, not just through tangible architecture, but also in the digital world. Yes, it's like eating a cake that is behind the window, but perhaps we can explore and exploit heritage in the digital world in many new different ways. My second question goes to Victoria. What about state-of-the-art technology that opens access and provides information, spatial information, enables transportation and opens up new opportunities in all the parts of our lives that are being digitized? How can this help to improve accessibility and sustainability for heritage and for the events taking place in historic monuments? We've heard one example, digital reproduction or mapping of historic heritage in the digital world, but I'm sure you can share many more. Good morning and thank you for your question. Let me pick up on this. First case I'd like to discuss is local cellars in Rzeszów that you will be visiting tonight. Accessibility is the name of the game, and you can talk about different aspects of accessibility. First of all, accessibility of cultural experience, historic experience. The cellars are now filled with multimedia, thousands of kilometers of cables. Still, we have preserved the original profile, which is key to the visitors. We are changing the way that content is presented, because accessibility is also about getting closer to the needs of the recipients, the perception. There are two trails we offer: historic for fans of history, and multimedia, especially for young people, to attract them, to let them record content of their own. Language. Language includes English, just like today at the conference, Polish. The Rzeszów sellers offer offer content in 3 languages, but we can expand that and offer more. People with disabilities, as the Marshal has said, we have a virtual trail for visitors in wheelchairs using VR. We have a sound trail for people with sight impairments. In addition, that space has been arranged to address different needs, offer different functions. We have a cinema, a screening room. We can hold conferences and events there. We have visiting trails for individuals and groups. We have a manager unit which comes up with new functions to offer: workshops, fairs, training sessions, etc., etc. Another part of accessibility goes back to what you mentioned, sir. You have to get to the venue of any event, so Rzeszów has tried to address this need, and we are offering solutions. I've had the pleasure to run 2 projects. One, a parking system, where we guide you with an app and info on screens or boards directly to your parking spot to reduce your carbon footprint. The other one, e-ticket. You can buy a ticket for buses on your smartphone that you always have in your pocket, or a bank card, your smartwatch, any device you prefer. So, in addition to what we've done, what are the opportunities ahead? I believe those apps should be integrated into a single app, combining all possible forms of transport. Air travel. We have visitors coming by air. Regional trains, city buses, suburban buses, so people can plan the entire route when they go to an event in the optimum way, combined with a calendar of events, planning of your route, the cost of transport, the price you pay for the tickets. This can help to protect the heritage and the environment alike, and this way we can be more environment friendly, and people can get to their events quickly and more efficiently. Yes, environmental friendly is the key word. I remember dozens of public events I've attended to do with heritage, and people have had to travel over country roads, sitting in traffic in the fields for hours, emitting CO2. The digital offering, you've mentioned guiding people to parking spots, but what about the digital offering? Is it likely to encourage visitors to use public transport rather than their own cars? It's very easy to go to Google Maps, type in the Łańcut or Castle or Jarosław city square, and you're 2 clicks away from getting there, and then off you go. You're on your way without worrying about a thing. What about technology? It seems to amplify problems rather than solve them. Can technology solve those problems? I do think so, indeed. Thinking of public events, when you're planning to travel, it's very easy to go by car, as you've said, but you need to park your car, and more often than not, you have to park far away from the venue, or you sit in traffic trying to get to a parking space. The system we have can be equipped with mobile detectors that show you whether the parking lots are available or filled. So the organizers of events may plan parking far away from the venue and show the visitors which lots are already full, and then guide the visitors to other parking lots and offer them public transport to the venue of the event as a shuttle. I think this is better for everyone. Nobody sits in traffic getting angry. Yes, indeed, this is looking nice. The right solution indeed. Mobile sensors that tell you which parking lots are available, so your infrastructure is not does not remain unused, can be used 24/7, 365 whenever you hold events. Now let me ask this of Michał Czerwiński. We've been speaking of space and the way people move around space. How do we address issues, problems, weaknesses, especially when you have to go to a place? Perhaps there would be no problem at all if space were better designed. I'm not saying that we should be swapping residential districts with lakes or removing castles to a better location. But what about state-of-the-art technology in designing space and designing buildings that could help us in a better way to create a better space?
Naturally, I just wanted to follow up on what the ladies said just now regarding not so much the design process, but at the planning, design, construction, and use. We're thinking of the use of space and the way, and we're also adapting our design strategy to these needs and requirements, but I would, at a very general level, like to refer to the previous presentation by Natalia and the very interesting thought about managing heritage as a source of innovation, as a resource that we can benefit from, a transformation of heritage sites, exploring mobile heritage in such a way that we don't see it as a burden, as something that's a cost. Of course, maintenance can be costly, but I think that one thing that's an area, an important part of our business is the transformation of such sites in such a way that they provide a multi-level, a multi-dimensional experience, a contemporary experience, looking for connections and inspirations that are future forward-looking. Museums shouldn't just be spaces where we collect artifacts, exhibits. They are a source of knowledge that we want to benefit from, and we want them going back to the planning stage, we want them to be part of our reality, social and economic. Speaking of the way they function, they're operated, we need to apply virtual reality, social media. We need to augment the experience provided by cultural sites. For instance, in designing, planning exhibitions, scanning artifacts, moving in time back and forth, X-rays, learning about history, studying how these buildings would have looked at various periods in time. For instance, the Museum of the Eastern Reaches, Eastern Lands, we have a concept where the site is part of our city. We try and locate it in our contemporary neighborhood, in our environment. We want this material experience to interact, to be intertwined with how it's seen by a visitor, but also from the outside, and the superimposition, the application of layers via virtual reality, where the past meets the present. And It's all blended together. So we have a number of solutions which also enhance the personal experience, which enrich the visitor experience of a space. That's also something that's used when designing exhibitions in heritage sites and historic sites. When talking about digitization and providing access to the collections, we can also look at the way this access is provided. There's an interesting solution where, for instance, you have virtual encounters with your forebears, with your ancestors, multimedia installations where you can engage with people living in the past around a table, where you can hear a testimony or a recording of someone who lived, of eyewitnesses of history, where we can personally engage with history and the site. For instance, around the substantive information dimension, there's also the human factor. There's also this personal experience that allows us to relate to our history at a personal level. And another interesting idea, a comparison, a way of seeing how we would like heritage today and cities today, what kind of experience they should provide. There's an interactive multimedia game which would integrate various cultural events in urban space, urban games, culture, education. For instance, using applications with a scenario where we would feel that one event, one site is part of a larger whole, and users would be heroes, characters, protagonists, exploring the world of this game. And this is a way of putting this technology to use, and also a social media network. So this element of combining, of sharing an experience, where on the one hand you have like using or exploring the exhibits that are being made available, and users like the younger generation, museum visitors, where they can try on a suit of armor or old costume. They can share this experience or the photos that they take wearing this historic costume. So animating this experience, giving it life. And it also has an interesting experience which has to do with data management, the management of the data that's collected, user data, where you have applications that, for example, allow us to see what users are interested in. Of course, we want to make sure that this data is used in an ethical manner. However, we're looking at an efficient or a sense of development and optimization of our projects that are carried out by organizers based on the user, relying on the user experience. So this can also provide input that would allow us to improve our offer. And so it's a co-creation where users are also involved. They're not, so it's not just given to us. We're part of a process. We're not just recipients, addressees. We're actively involved. And it's like you mentioned, like funding or applying for funds, as well as collecting information or checking whether something works, checking the performance. So we need to have data to make sure that what we're doing responds to a given need, or something is viable, is sustainable, or is feasible. Okay, yes, that was very interesting, because you didn't say that you didn't talk about digitizing the restorer of monuments to make sure that they work faster, or, for example, to have them take on board the direct input. So it's nice to hear coming from an architect, because when we discuss heritage, there's always the bureaucratic aspect, the things that are and aren't possible. So moving from being a spectator towards being a participant and a co-creator, ultimately, that's really incredible. I want to look at Ivo. I'm looking at Ivo now. So isn't this something that you're afraid of, because Ivo Krankowski, because when we talk about participation, there is a synergy with cinema. Like, I can be inspired to visit, for instance, an open-air museum, which was the location for your TV series, 1670 on Netflix. I visited the open-air museum where the show was filmed. So that was really encouraging. I wanted to go see the location, the place where the thing was shot. It can have a commercial aspect, but if I'm to be the co-creator, as someone representing the film industry, don't you feel threatened in some way that this authorial, this auteur vision that was so important won't be overwhelmed or by trite, banal ideas that are being implemented by viewers? Thank you. I want to thank the March 8 Foundation, the organizers, for inviting me. I'm a little overwhelmed. This is the first time I've taken part in an academic. The Marshal can hold your hand if you like. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, I feel better already. And right, getting back to your question. Is this something that I'm concerned, that I'm worried about, whether artists should be afraid of this? I don't think so. I believe that we ought to be hopeful as regards the future. Well, first of all, I'm a little naive. I'm always an optimist, but also I think that technology and art, okay, AI as well. I don't want to go off topic too much, but I think that technological progress is something that's always been part of art. And the 2D cinema was to have been replaced by 3D. TV was supposed to have become obsolete. Printed media. Of course, it all changes. It's a process, not always for the better. But I believe in a shared experience of culture, and this can be provided. This can be enjoyed through cinema, theater, going on walks, and visiting the open-air museum in Kolbuszowa. After the success of the first season of 1670, we're back in the open-air museum, and and we see the crowds, the people flocking to the open-air museum, to this village. So we're very happy that we contributed to raising visitor numbers in that open-air museum, the so-called Skansen. But as I see it, technology, we have a streaming site, Netflix, which backed this project, and at 2 levels. So, okay, actually, we won we've won at two levels. So the first success was that we were able to enhance, enrich pop culture, to make our mark on pop culture. So certain things about folk culture, folk history are no longer part of the academic discourse and have become popularized through memes online in pop culture. So thanks to that, and this was made possible through technology that does give anybody with a phone or a computer around the world access to this content. And another thing, the projects, things that not a lot of people are aware of, thanks to this, quite a large group of people were able to enrich, develop their passion on cultural heritage. I'm talking about our set designers, our scenographers, our costume designers, who employed wonderful artisans, craftsmen, historians, who who joined this project, who shared their passion, their knowledge, their family traditions, their generations of know-how, because we did try to use materials and all the props we used. We tried to make them using material that was available in the 17th century and 17th century technology. So if these projects can provide persons who are passionate about history with an outlet, with a way to show, like our composer and the musicians whom we've invited to take part. You're doing very well here, but this is okay. This was your first time on stage, but you're doing very well
Współczesna
indeed.
produkcja filmowa,
Contemporary
zwłaszcza
film
kiedy ma się takiego
productions,
partnera jak Netflix,
especially with a partner like Netflix,
mocno
is
sformalizowane i
a very
skonwencjonalizowane.
rigid
I
and
również jeśli chodzi o
convention-based
scenę
process.
artystyczną,
Also,
jest
artistically
to,
speaking,
oczywiście jest swoboda, jest
of course, you have
twórcze,
artistic freedom
ale też
and
są
you have the
pewne
opportunity for
ramy
creativity, but
konwencjonalne,
there are also some
finansowe produkcji,
rigid
czasowe i tak
limits
dalej.
to production
Można
processes,
pokusić się
including
o hipotezę,
financial,
że tak jak
the financial budget. So,
sztuki,
while the
no to przez
film
to
market
raczej
is evolving,
zacieśniać niż poszerzać.
there will be less and less, rather than more and more
swobody
space for
i luzu.
freedom and
Na
leeway
planie, w przygotowaniu
on the
tego
set, in even planning your production.
Czy wobec tego
So,
pan by postawił
would
raczej
you
się po stronie takiej odpowiedzi, że
think
zabytki
that
dziedzictwa
heritage
będą sztafarzem,
will be but
z którym
a background
klasa filmowa spotyka się w momencie rozpoczęcia
that
zdjęć?
the film
W
crew
zasadzie wszystko jest zaplanowane
handles
z góry.
during the production that is well designed and
Zacieśniającym się
strictly
oknie
planned?
będzie jednak
Will this
przestrzeń
window
na
that is getting
inspirację.
smaller and smaller still offer
czym
room
innym
for
jest
inspiration
pojechać
with heritage?
na ten
It's one
Akropolis,
thing
wystawić
to
tam
go
coś,
to
co przygotowane w
Acropolis
domu, a czym innym
and
jest
stage
spróbować jakoś
something
dokonać jakiejś
that you
interpretacji
have planned in every detail, and it's another thing to try and reinterpret the
materialnego
monuments
i
of history,
pozwolić na to, żeby ten
the
proces
heritage,
uwzględniał
and
jakiś dialog z tym zabytkiem,
open room
a nie
for
taki,
dialogue
który
with
dialog
heritage
wydaje
in
się,
the
że wiele
process.
miejsca
And it doesn't seem to be
komercyjnej produkcji filmowej.
there doesn't seem to be so much space for the dialogue in conventional film production. What is your idea? What is your thinking about the outlook of film production? Will there be space for dialogue with heritage, or will heritage be merely the background for your productions, with all the benefits that flow from that, of course? Well, that's a million-dollar question. I don't know. It's a very complicated thing or process. Next question.
Dobrze. No to pytanie
Right.
pomocnicze. Tak.
Well, my sense is this question should rather go to researchers, cultural scientists. As a creator, all I can say is I'm all in favor for creators to create the force that could create value and establish partnership with corporations, with industry. We can do it only if, and I extend my greetings to colleagues protesting in front of the Polish Parliament today, if we get royalties from online streaming, and if we can get together in organizations and associations, and if we spread the faith in auteur cinema and its part. This way, I think, we can be what technology will need rather than vice versa. Of course, we need technology as well, because technology enables us to move in time. The more technology we can use in the right way, with the least equipment we bring to Kolbuszowa that interferes with the happy lives of the local animals, the better we can create
Świetnie pan sobie poradził
better
bez pytania
things.
pomocniczego.
That's a good
I bardzo
answer without
dziękuję.
a
To jest
next
też właśnie
question.
ważny
Thank you so
postulat
much.
społeczny,
This is an interesting
jest
contribution,
dziedzictwo, jest
which
technologia,
says there is
są
heritage,
inwestorzy tego
there's
dziedzictwa,
technology,
ale jest jeszcze
there are
wielu różnych
investors,
interesariuszy i
but
są
there are
to nie
also
tylko
lots of
odwiedzający.
stakeholders
Bardzo dziękuję.
other than visitors.
Panie dziekanie,
Thank you.
w tej
Dear
pierwszej
Dean,
części, zaraz będzie część druga,
in this
będziemy
first
szybko, celowo
session,
starali
after
się
which we will move to the
poznać
second
te
session,
ciekawe
trying
pomysły
to
na przyszłość
identify
i może pan
the
nas w nią wprowadzić.
outlook
Jakie
for the
są
future.
dzisiaj
So,
perspektywy rozwoju
to
tych
segue into
technologii,
that, what are the
do
current
których gdzieś tutaj
prospects for the development
nawiązywaliśmy,
of
ale
technology
kiedy
that
przychodzi
we've
do
touched
procesu
upon so far?
inwestycyjnego,
When it
kiedy
comes to
przychodzi do,
investments,
jakichś
when it
interwencji,
comes
na przykład
to
w tym zabytku
interventions
budowlanej,
in
no to już trzeba dokonywać konkretnych
historic
wyborów, trzeba
buildings
znać
with construction,
te technologie,
you have to make choices.
umieć je
You have to
zastosować w
know
danym miejscu,
technology and know how
a
to
czasami
use
być
it.
może nawet stworzyć coś na
Sometimes
potrzeby
maybe
tego miejsca, co
develop
później
new
będzie
technology
uwzględnione w innych zabytkach. Słuchamy.
that will later spread to other applications. Let me raise the points to follow up on what the other speakers have said.
Może zaczynając najpierw od
First,
technologii cyfrowych,
digital technology.
bo ten świat wirtualny,
The virtual world,
rzeczywistość rozszerzona,
augmented reality,
właśnie daje taką możliwość
that
zanurzenia
gives you
się,
the
tak
opportunity
jak
to
kino,
immerse,
z zabytkiem, jest pewnym zanurzeniem się w
to
historię,
dive deep in history, just
właśnie
like cinema does.
doświadczenie rzeczywistości
So the
wirtualnej
experience of
stwarza taką
virtual
przestrzeń
reality
do zanurzenia
opens up a
się
space to dive
w
deep,
imersji.
to
To jest
immerse
jeden z takich
yourself.
obszarów, które się
That's
rozwijają.
a
Technologia to
growing,
jest,
a growing field
ten rozwój
of technology
szybki.
that is very supportive and
Do tego
driving the
stopnia,
process.
że można obecnie korzystać z tego właśnie posiadając smartfon.
So
Nie
now,
muszą być gogle,
If you
którym
have a
się
smartphone,
sprzęt.
you don't even need
Natomiast jest
goggles
to taki
or
obszar właśnie
expensive
dla
equipment
przemysłu
to
kreatywnych, który
use virtual reality, and that's a space for creative industry to contribute content.
przedmówca sztuczną inteligencję.
One other speaker
to też jest
mentioned
narzędzie,
AI.
które może nas
Artificial
wspierać.
intelligence is another tool that can help if you want to experience the times past by
Albo zobaczyć go właśnie
experiencing a historic
modele cyfrowe,
monumental
te
building.
rzeczywistość
If you
wirtualna
want to see what it
są
looked like
odpowiedzią
before,
i
virtual
rozwiązaniem,
reality
które
is
przychodzi, tak, do nas jako
a solution
odbiorców.
to address that need.
I to jest jeden obszar.
So that's
Natomiast
one point.
druga rzecz,
The other one,
bliższa temu, o co Pan
which
zapytał,
is perhaps closer to
właśnie,
the gist of your question,
możliwości zastosowania technologii
the applications of technology at a specific historic site.
tak myślę głównie o
Technology means
technologiach wspomagających, czy
technology
bazujących na
that
odnawialnej energii.
relies, for instance, on
Nie do
renewable
każdego
energy.
zabytku
This
każde rozwiązanie będzie pasować.
is not a one-size-fits-all
Jest tutaj przestrzeń
kind
do
of thing.
badania.
Different technologies fit different buildings, and this opens up space for researchers to develop simulations and models and to test solutions, to pick the optimum solutions
każdym zabytku można fotowoltaikę
You cannot
zamontować.
use photovoltaics at every historic site. Not every historic building has enough space to put energy
Wspomniał o technologiach wodorowych, to też
batteries
wymaga pewnych,
in the basement. You mentioned hydrogen technology.
infrastruktury,
Again, this
żeby to było
takes
możliwe do
space
zastosowania.
for
Więc,
infrastructure to install
myślę tutaj
and
o
use.
tworzeniu
So
modeli obliczeniowych, które
I'm thinking of developing
dadzą
computation models
administratorowi budynku
that
na przykład taką
would
możliwość
allow the building
symulowania
administrator
tego, jak dane
to
rozwiązanie
simulate
sprawdziłoby
the
się
applicability of a
w
solution
danym obiekcie.
at his or her site.
Mówimy o rodzaju cyfrowego
So
bliźniaka.
this is like a digital twin, right? Digital twin, correct, but combined with a game that the administrator could play to pick the right solution for his or her site. The payoff time, the efficiency, maybe swapping it for another solution to test at the site.
To są duże nakłady pracy.
Now this takes a lot of work
do konkretnego obiektu
to develop a model for a specific site, but by partnering up with universities and researchers, you can make this happen in combination with applying for funds to develop technology or to analyze solutions. Well, best of luck. I hope we can get a grant to
Ubliźniaczyć cyfrowo.
develop
Proszę
a digital
Państwa,
twin for the
druga runda,
Teutonic
to
Knights
runda prawie
Castle of
końcowa.
Malbork.
Ostatnie słowo będzie
And
należało do pani marszałek.
second round, the final round,
Na to pieniądze są czy nie ma.
the marshal could then
Ale
decide
do
whether to
Państwa
allot
będę miał
money
to
or
samo
not.
pytanie
But I
do
have
każdego i proszę
one
o
question
odpowiedź
to all
jedną,
our
może być
speakers.
długie zdanie, ale jedno.
One sentence in
Która
reply. It could be a long one, but still one sentence. Which of the technologies available off shelf, or the emerging technologies, perhaps, seems to you to be the most promising one
interpretację, udostępnianie
to interpret, reinterpret, make accessible and protect our heritage? What is your perspective? What is your favorite?
Niech to będzie przesłaniem i inspiracją, mam nadzieję, dla
Make this your message to our audience. Where do we look for opportunities? What do we invest in? What do we research? Let's start with Michał. Right.
W kontekście udostępniania i
Speaking of
tworzenia
accessibility
takiego
and
doświadczenia,
developing a
wydaje mi się, że
multi-level
musimy
experience,
zdecydować, która konkretna
I
nowa
wouldn't
technologia,
like to
która
pick
faktycznie jest
one
nową
specific
technologią,
new
ale
technology
innowacja
or
polegająca
existing
na
technology,
integracji
but I should
różnych,
mention innovation,
różnych technologii
innovating by
cyfrowych,
integrating different
wydawałoby się, że
digital
innymi
technologies
różnymi obszarami.
which may come from
Z jednej
different
strony
areas,
społeczność, z drugiej strony
social
rozszerzona rzeczywistość,
augmented
wirtualna rzeczywistość.
or virtual reality.
To jeżeli chodzi o to doświadczenie dziedzictwa.
So that's about experiencing heritage in the context of public spaces, cities, countries.
Wydaje mi się, że kluczowe z
But
perspektywy
what is key, I believe, from the perspective of facing the challenges posed by heritage,
obiekty,
especially
które wymagają
buildings and sites that
konserwacji,
need
bardzo kosztownych, bardzo dużych
expensive
nakładów finansowych,
refurbishment,
zarówno w budowaniu, przetwarzaniu, jak i
reconstruction,
zajmowaniu się, opiekowaniu się zabytkami.
maintenance
Mówimy o muzeach,
and
na przykład,
protection.
które są najbardziej
Museums, for
wymagającymi
instance,
obiektami,
technologically the
wymagającymi,
most demanding
zapewnienia
sites
ścisłej kontroli klimatu.
that
To w tym
require
kontekście
climate control
kluczowe są właśnie
in every detail. What is key here is solutions and technologies of design based on iterative modeling and simulations.
bardzo precyzyjnie
This way we can precisely
określać,
define and design
jak obiekty będą funkcjonowały,
our
ile będzie nas kosztowało
facilities,
wybudowanie, ile będzie
how much
kosztowało
it will
nas,
cost to build
ekonomicznie
them
i ekologicznie.
in terms of
Funkcjonowanie może badać,
financial as well as
węglowe,
environmental
możemy się
cost. You can measure the
zastanawiać,
carbon
nasycać
footprint. You
te
can
modele. No, wydaje się, że
add
nieskończenie
any number
ilości
of
danych
parameters
i
and
z
data to your
technologii
models.
Building
So,
Information Management jeszcze przechodzimy
building
do jeszcze szerszego
information management
City
in a broader
Information
perspective,
Management.
city information management.
Dzisiaj tworzymy, jakby rozbudowujemy ten
We are
system takiego
expanding
operowania,
the system
i symulowania
for
na
simulating
podstawie modeli cyfrowych.
and running
Możemy
digital
symulować
models.
całe
We can
tereny,
simulate
obszary, uwzględniając,
big
relacje.
areas, territories.
Słucham?
Pardon me? I'm saying you're not looking the chair
Daję
in
bardzo-
the
To jest ta
eye.
druga technologia.
Dziękuję
Tak.
bardzo.
That's another technology we could
Dziękujemy.
deploy. Thank you for that.
Integracja różnych technologii
So
sensorycznych
integrating
i
different
Pani Wiktorio.
technologies, sensory and digital. Victoria,
Dlatego,
I don't
że
think it will surprise anyone if I say AI.
często są
Cities,
nasycone technologią multimedialną,
historic buildings
systemami
are filled
danych,
with
systemami
multimedia,
czynników.
cameras,
Natomiast
sensors, but
bez sensu jest odtwarzanie
it
i
doesn't make
składanie
sense
znowu
to
tych samych urządzeń. Lepiej dodać
use
warstwę,
or
która
add
po prostu
more and more of the
wykorzysta
same
dane
equipment.
i
It's better to
zostanie
add a new layer that can use your data and process the data available from these sensors or cameras. Integrating existing solutions, developing content. I think Ivo can speak to that. This could enrich the content, make it more attractive, especially to new audiences.
Czyli sztuczna
A new layer.
inteligencja.
So
Dochodzi
AI.
do listy. Teraz pan, pani
Add
Iwonie.
that to the list. What about you, Ivo?
Sztuczna inteligencja, ale
AI,
z założeniem
yes,
zawsze
but
będziemy opisywać,
provided that
podpisywać wyniki
we
sztucznej
always
inteligencji. Żeby po prostu zawsze było
comment
jasne,
or
że coś, co widzimy,
refine
słyszymy,
the content we get from
co
AI, so
jest
that
nam mówione,
everything
było
we
podpisane, że to jest
are
AI. Uważam, że to jest kluczowa
provided by
kluczowa
AI
rzecz
is
dla
marked,
twórców.
labeled as
Ja
such,
chciałem jednak
generated
powiedzieć o
by
rzeczy
AI. That's key to us,
chyba
creators.
prostszej,
Let me
żeby
turn to a
był
simpler topic
zrównoważony rozwój,
to
czyli żebyśmy
ensure
oczywiście
sustainability.
szli w
We
AI,
should be
nowe
using
technologie,
AI
i tak dalej,
and
ale żebyśmy nigdy nie
state-of-the-art
zapominali
technology,
o starych,
but
dobrych
never forget the
rzeczach
good
2D,
old
takich jak
2D
nagłośnienie w sali konferencyjnej, projektor,
technology,
nagrania terenowe.
speakers in the
Chciałem
meeting room,
powiedzieć, że jako twórca filmowy
projectors,
korzystam teraz z niesamowitego projektu
videos.
Polyphony Project,
I'm using a
czyli
great
ukraińskiego
project,
projektu,
Polyphony
gdzie
Project, a
nagrywane
Ukrainian
są
project,
pieśni ludowe
that
u
records
babuszek,
folk
tam gdzie
songs
mieszkają,
sung
i
by
jest to
the
na wideo,
babushkas. In
w
the
audio,
villages,
można
it's
każdy
both
głos
video and
tej
audio.
kobiety sobie osobno
You can
słuchać
single out
i
every
mix. Że to
singer's
wszystko powinno
voice
być
and
po
listen
prostu
to it.
dostępne. Ile jest polskiego
It's all
kina, które
available.
jest niedostępne?
There's so much Polish
Łatwo
cinema
online.
that is
I
not yet
digitalizacja
available
filmów jest
easily
fantastyczna.
online. Digitizing
Żeby
movies,
pokazywać
that's great.
to nasze dziedzictwo filmowe
To,
ludziom w łatwy
promote
sposób.
our film heritage
Więc ja bym też
with
tak
the
apelował,
broadest
że
audience
cokolwiek
possible, in
robimy
the
w
simplest
technologii,
way possible. So
to po
whatever
pierwsze
you do
pamiętajmy o
with technology,
wykluczonych
remember
i
those
pamiętajmy
that
też o
are
ludziach, którzy po prostu nie
disadvantaged or
urodzili się
excluded.
wokół technologii.
Remember the
I
people
technologia
who were
potrafi
not
być naprawdę
born
bardzo
when
frustrująca
this
i róbmy
technology was
wszystko,
around for them.
żeby ona
Technology
była
can
jak
be
najbardziej
frustrating.
dla nas i dla ludzi.
Make
Mówię
it
to po prostu jako
most
użytkownik.
accessible. I'm saying this as a user myself.
Dziękuję.
Thank
Dziękuję
you.
bardzo.
Thanks so much.
Panie dziekanie, jaki jest pański typ?
Dean, what is your pick?
Mój jest podobnie jak
Similar
pierwszego,
to what the first speaker said,
wypowiadającego się, bo tak też myślę, że to technologia
I'm
cyfrowe w
thinking
tym kontekście,
digital technology in the context of
które będą
heritage
wspomagać rozwiązania i rzeczywistość rozszerzona. Rzeczywistość.
and augmented reality, to top it up.
Teraz zatem dziękuję
Marshall,
bardzo.
thank you
Do pani,
to all the speakers.
należy
Marshall,
ostatnie słowo.
you have the final
Czy w
word.
programie operacyjnym województwa
In your operational program in the region, the operational program for Eastern Poland,
Węgach i Minogach i jak one się teraz nazywają.
all those different schemes and programs, is there enough money for what we've been discussing, or is there only money
Ja
for
przepraszam, że tak przerwałam,
the
ale
good
w tych
old
panelach,
technology?
gdzie mamy przewagę panów,
I'm
to
sorry I
zawsze ci
jumped
panowie
in, but
mówią dłużej niż
whenever
kobiety.
there are
Dlatego
more
przepraszam
men
bardzo.
than women on
Ale
panels, the
szanowni
men
państwo, tak,
take up
generalnie
much more
przede
time.
wszystkim
But
bardzo
anyway,
ważne jest zintegrowanie tych
what is
wszystkich
key is to
elementów,
integrate
które już
all
do tej pory
that
wytworzyliśmy
we
ze
have,
środków europejskich. I
produced
oczywiście
with
program
European
Fundusze
funding.
Europejskie dla Podkarpacia
European funds
działa
for the
lokalnie, tutaj na
Podkarpacie
miejscu,
region
realizuje
is a
te mniejsze
local program
inicjatywy.
focusing
Program
on
Fundusze
smaller
Europejskie
initiatives.
dla Polski
The
Wschodniej,
Eastern
dla nowoczesnej
Poland
gospodarki, dla Polski
program,
cyfrowej, rozwoju
Digital
cyfrowego,
Poland
ale również
program,
Phoenix, czyli ten największy
and
program
Phoenix,
w
the biggest
Europie,
program in
Fundusze
Europe,
Europejskie na infrastrukturę, klimat i
European funds
środowisko.
for
To są
infrastructure,
środki, które
environment
mają wspierać
and
działania
climate.
kulturalne,
This
wychodząc
is
naprzeciw
money
oczywiście
available
sztucznej
for cultural
inteligencji, ale tej sztucznej
projects.
inteligencji
We have to,
realizowanej właśnie z
take up AI,
uwzględnieniem
but
tych wszystkich
use it
elementów, o których tutaj
while
dzisiaj
taking
mówiliśmy,
into
bo
account all
nie
the other
zawracajmy
factors
też tego
we've
dziedzictwa,
mentioned.
które już
Let
jest,
us
a
not
które właśnie bardzo
overlook
często
the
potrzebuje
heritage that is
takiego
out there and
skumulowania w jednym miejscu,
all it
zebrania
needs
tego
is,
wszystkiego, co mamy i odpowiedniego
focus
pokazania tych
and the
wszystkich
combination
elementów. Oczywiście
and
zasoby
availability,
cyfrowe,
accessibility
dane
in one
cyfrowe
place.
są
So
jak
digital
najbardziej nam do tego
resources,
potrzebne,
digital
abyśmy mogli
data is
realizować
what it
kolejne
takes
ważne
to
przedsięwzięcia
run
i
new
pokazywać, jak to
important
powinno
projects.
wyglądać. Dzisiaj mówimy o zastosowaniu takich technologii jak wodór, fotowoltaika, pompy ciepła w obiektach zabytkowych, a my bardzo często mamy problem z konserwatorem zabytków, bo nie wyraża zgody na podjazd dla osób z niepełnosprawnościami w tym budynku. Tak? Więc co dopiero mówić o wodorze albo o pompach ciepła. Więc oczywiście musimy po pierwsze zmienić swoje myślenie, po drugie zintegrować te wszystkie systemy, które już dzisiaj działają. Bardzo ciekawy projekt sieci badawczej Łukasiewicz, awatar Ignacego Łukasiewicza, z którym można usiąść, porozmawiać, zapytać o jego życie, ale również zapytać go o dzisiejszych naukowców, więc już zastosowanie sztucznej inteligencji razem z homologramem całym.
Together
Mam
with
nadzieję, że to
holograms.
dziękuję bardzo, hologramem.
Holograms,
Więc
that's the
dzisiaj
word I was
bardzo
looking for.
wiele rozwiązań
So
jest,
we
tylko
have
trzeba
lots of
mieć odwagę po to, żeby
solutions
sięgnąć,
that are
odwagę do
available,
tego, żeby
but
sięgnąć
we
po środki
need to have the
europejskie,
courage
nie
to
bojąc się
apply
właśnie
for
tych
EU
zastosowań, a
funds
mówiąc o wykluczeniu
with
cyfrowym,
all these new
to również są
applications.
środki na to, żeby
Digital
tworzyć kluby
exclusion.
rozwoju
Well,
cyfrowego
there's money
dla
available
seniorów, ale
to,
również nie
set
dla
up
seniorów, czyli dla nas
senior
nastolatków, jak tu
citizens
siedzimy,
clubs
jeżeli czujemy się
and
wykluczeni
clubs
cyfrowo,
for people
również
our
możemy z
age
tego
who may feel
skorzystać.
digitally
Więc oczywiście te
excluded
wszystkie technologie są po to,
to
żeby nam
improve
pomagać,
their
nie przeszkadzać,
understanding
ale
of
również
technology.
wspierać nas w
Technology
tych
is
działaniach,
there to
które
help you,
realizujemy.
to
Są na to
support you
środki
in your
europejskie.
work, and there's money
Dziękuję. W tej
available
rozmowie,
at
to już
EU
ostatnie
level. Thank you.
słowa,
My
pojawiła
final
się
comment.
wzmianka o
You've mentioned
tych różnych
all the
sposobach
different
interakcji
ways
z
to
dziedzictwem
interact
różnych
with
grup
heritage
Czasami one są
on the part of
motywowane
different groups of
możliwościami poznawczymi
participants,
czy
motivated by
stopniem,
cognitive needs,
etapem rozwoju
perhaps.
poznawczego, co innym dla
Cognitive
dzieci, co
development
innym
is
dla
different for
dorosłych,
kids,
co innym
different
dla
for
historyków
adults,
sztuki, a co
different
innym
for
dla
art
historyków
historians,
militariów albo
different
historyków
for
swojej własnej
military
rodziny. To są
historians of family,
Czym innym są
historians.
różne
They have
potrzeby
different
motywowane
expectations. There are also
niepełnosprawnością,
needs
motywowane
motivated
chociażby
by
barierami
ability,
komunikacyjnymi.
disability, communication and transportation barriers. After all, we have visitors at historic sites that come from different backgrounds, different cultures. So what has
Jako ta
stuck
potrzeba
with me
różnorodności,
is the
a z drugiej
need
strony
for
mamy
diversity.
odpowiedzi, które
And
są
we've heard
cyfrowe. Też pan
a
też o
lot
tym
about
mówił w
digital
podsumowaniu.
technology. And you said
Potrzebach
that
tych bardzo
in
różnych
your summary, you've
odbiorców.
mentioned all the different
Czyli
needs of
konkluzja
different
byłaby taka, że te
visitors or
technologie cyfrowe
audiences.
być
So
może
the
to
conclusion
właśnie
is
są w stanie nam
digital technology
zapewnić
could perhaps
nie
cover
tylko
that.
trwanie i efektywność,
Not just protection and efficiency of heritage,
ale
but also
dostępność
accessibility
nierozumianą wyłącznie wąską, ale
understood broadly.
zawsze, wszędzie,
Accessibility
dla
everywhere,
wszystkich,
at any
żeby
time,
one
for everyone,
stawały się częścią
to
nas,
make heritage part of
żebyśmy
us
naszą więź z
and
nimi
to
mogli
maintain
rozwijać.
our
Bardzo pięknie
bonds.
dziękuję
Thank you
Państwu
so
za udział w
much
tym panelu, a
for
Państwu
being
za wysłuchanie.
part of
Proszę
this
o
panel.
brawa dla
Thank you to the audience. Let's have a round of applause for the speakers.